Even though the SAG-AFTRA strike is over, the Walt Disney Company has pushed back Pixar's next film, Elio, to 2025. And now they're releasing a trailer for Inside Out 2. Inside Out had a troubled production as they tried to balance which emotions would be in the film, and now it seems like we're getting some new additions and maybe even some subtractions due to contract disputes. And on top of that, they seem to be losing their writer, and not just the fact that they've lost John Lasseter. Let's talk about that here on That Park Place. Hello, everyone. Welcome to That Park Place. I am Jonas J. Campbell, and here with me, as always, is the expert on everything Disney, Vash Sky. Vash, are you doing well today?
I'm doing pretty good. Thank you so much for asking. Woke up to the sight of this trailer, and boy, oh boy, there are definitely opinions out there for it. I know I have my own. I know you have your own, Jonas. We got to break this thing down from multiple angles, I think, right?
Yes, and then after that, we're going to spill some tea. And it's old tea, but I don't think everyone is aware of what's been going on with Pixar lately. And we're not just talking about John Lasseter. All right, well, since we aren't going to show the trailer in this video, we'll try to link it below. We're going to go to WDWNT for their coverage. This by Kyle Silagi. I apologize if I've mispronounced your name. First, Inside Out 2 teaser trailer and poster introduced new emotions, characters, and voices. Vash, do you know anything about the history of the production of Inside Out?
Not as much as I probably should, but I know it's the brainchild of Pete Docter looking to get into the mind of a child, right, and personifying the visual representation of that through various emotions and so forth. I believe, if I recall correctly, the original emotions were joy, sadness, anger, fear. If I recall, or disgust maybe as well.
And fear and disgust.
Gotcha.
Fear being voiced by Bill Hader, and disgust being voiced by Mindy Kaling. Anger perfectly cast. What is his name? Lewis Black. Amy Poehler as Joy, and who are we forgetting here? Sadness.
Phyllis Smith.
Yes, from The Office.
That's right.
Absolutely perfect casting for that film. Now, that being said, it did have a very troubled production, which we will get into in just a moment. But here, let's go, because they do such a good job. As you can see, we've already watched the trailer ourselves. But let's get to that description here. The 90-second trailer starts with roughly 20 seconds of footage. I'd say it's about 27 seconds before they get into anything original here from the original movie before cutting to the Walt Disney Company and Pixar logos. There's your 27 seconds.
And by the way, we're seeing that as a kind of a trend, right? We saw that with the Marvels trailer, right, where they front-ended that last trailer before that movie is wide released with like Robert Downey Jr. and Chris Evans, and it's like, oh, look at all the things you used to love about this franchise. Here you go. Here's new stuff, right?
Right. They're trying very hard to remind the audience, you remember that thing you used to like? We promise this is going to be just like that.
Exactly.
Of course, we also know from investor calls that Disney has basically said they have undeveloped talent, which I think is code for they have the people that are kind of wet behind the ears, and they want to give them the best foot forward by giving them things people are already familiar with.
Right.
All right, so back to the trailer, then transitions to headquarters, where a blaring alarm has woken everyone up. Joy, fear, sadness, anger, and disgust. A demolition crew of small characters enters the command center, breaking a window. And after the crew leaves, the 5 emotions from the original film stand over the control console, which now radiates an orange hue, which is a new color, because as we know from the original film, everybody, when they have control of the console, it goes to their color, because generally one emotion is in control. The audience is then introduced to anxiety, a new emotion that is the cause of the new console color. The new character says, "We want to make such a good first impression," indicating that the additional new emotions will be introduced in the film. We, of course. I think that's probably where we're going to end here. As we can see, we have, it looks like 4 new emotions here popping up. Maybe it's lots of new emotions. All I'm going to say is, as far as that goes, is I know they tuned it down quite a bit. They had, I think they listed 200 different emotions in the original film, and they pared it down quite a bit, including Schadenfreude, which Schadenfreude is the enjoyment of other people's pain or discomfort.
Okay. Well, there you go. That's that's got interesting storytelling possibilities, I'm sure.
Yeah, we try not to engage in that one too much
Right.
here on That Park Place, but as we're watching them go back to the well here and try to draw on on their previous positive work, let's talk about the difference here between the original and what it looks like here for
Please.
the teaser. We don't know if this will be good or bad. We do know that it took a very long time to get this film right. And the original process at Pixar is what is called the story group. Vash, do you know what the story group is?
Yes, from what I
Oh,
understand.
sorry, I made a mistake here. What is the Brain Trust? The Disney version is the story group. The
Right.
Pixar version is the Brain Trust. Please go ahead.
Perfect. You took the words right out of my mouth, Jonas. Thank you for correcting that. Yeah, the Brain Trust is really, I mean, it was an assemblage of people, from what I understand. I think John Lasseter was involved. I think Pete Docter was as well. Some
Oh,
other,
absolutely.
famous directors. Yeah, Ed Catmull may have contributed once or twice to that, but it's essentially the roadmap for figuring out the stories that Pixar is going to eventually tell in cinematic format, right? So it's like, okay, before we go and develop this picture, let's kind of develop it within the Brain Trust and kind of flesh these things out before actually giving it to development. Is that sort
Well,
of
yeah, the
what
only
that
thing I
was?
would add is that I think even after development and even sometimes later in the process, the story group would still reconvene. There was some indication that Steve Jobs was allowed to attend. There's also Andrew
Oh,
Stanton. You said Pete Docter, Lee
right.
Unkrich, and there's another Pixar director that is escaping me right now. But all of those great Pixar films basically came out of that story group. Sorry, the Brain Trust. It's the same function. Of course, Lucasfilm also has a story group which functions in a different way. Not
Much
to
different.
confuse all of these. So some things I notice in this new trailer is
Hmm.
that obviously we have the new emotions, and we might have an answer for why some of the emotions might be changing a little bit.
Hmm.
In this story out of Vulture, which I want to thank you, Vash, for bringing this to my attention.
Of
Inside
course.
Out 2 is happening, but only Amy Poehler is feeling the joy. This one by Rebecca Alter. It looks like, this is not a new announcement, by the way, this film. Per Baloney sources, that would be Matt Baloney from Puck, Mindy Kaling and Bill Hader will not be returning to voice Disgust and Fear, respectively, because they were offered just 2% of the salary of Amy Poehler, who is returning as the lead character, Joy. Apparently, Poehler was offered $5 million plus additional fees and bonuses, while the rest
Hmm.
of the main cast was offered just $100,000 and no bonuses.
Whoops.
That's a tragedy right now. I don't know if they've fixed that from this point because in just when I watched it, it sounded like Bill Hader was still in there. It sounded like Mindy Kaling was still in there. Um,
I mean, I'm looking at the cast sheet here, and it says that Tony Hale is now playing Fear, and Lisa Lapira is now playing Disgust.
oh, okay, so they've replaced them. I don't know Lisa Lapires, but Tony Hale is most famous for playing Byron Buster Bluth on Arrested Development, in which he
Okay.
does a fantastic job on that. Uh, in addition, if they've lost Bill Hader, let's talk about this aspect. This is from 2015. Bill Hader talks Inside Out, reveals he's been working in Pixar's writers' room from
Mm.
Mike Sampson from Screen Crush. Now, this was big news to me at the time. Bill Hader apparently did a lot of writing, and was involved in many Pixar productions, which in my opinion means that he was probably free floating in some way. Maybe he was in fact a member of the Brain Trust. I don't know. I don't have confirmation of that, but it seems like he was. He's a very funny guy. He's very creative, and even when I didn't necessarily like Saturday Night Live much and what they were putting out, Bill Hader was kind of consistently funny, regardless.
I would agree.
Yep. So it says right here, in addition to supplying the voice for Fear, the neurotic and anxiety driven. Oh, there is a good point brought up here that fear and anxiety are pretty much the same emotion.
Ruh-roh.
Inside the
Uh-oh.
brain of 11-year-old Riley, Hader has also been spending time inside the Pixar writer's room where the so-called brain trust convene to work out their upcoming movies. The former SNL star, who also has a cameo as the running slug in Monsters University, yeah, he got the button on that film as well, has been making recurring trips to Emeryville to contribute to the story process, similar to his role as the creative consultant on South Park.
Right.
I wonder if he's still involved in South Park right now. I'd imagine he's keeping his head a little bit low, considering the South Park Into the Panderverse. When to say fallout reaction, it looks like he was also part of The Good Dinosaur. It sounds like Bill Hader was heavily involved there, and he's yet another person who has left Pixar, maybe in their hour of need. So, what do you think, Vash? Is this? Are you interested in Inside Out 2?
This is the one that I've been most concerned about coming out, right? For various reasons. I think one, it's like, okay, it's a little weird that people are falling off the cast sheet. It's I don't know. This is not directed by Pete Docter. It's actually directed by Kelsey Mann, who bodies of work escapes me at the moment. So we're going to give that person $200 million going forward with this whole thing, which is about the average price of a Pixar film. And it's like, ooh, that's a big risk right there. And also, too, when dealing with Riley, her emotions and so forth, how should I phrase this? This can be taken south real quickly by maybe some activist-oriented people, right? This could be...
That's a very good point.
Right? And so that's what's got me really concerned. It's like, okay, we're dealing with, children's development, especially...
Right. Yeah, there is... I will say, and you've made a very good point there, and I want to bounce off of it. There's a bit too much of a focus on anxiety as an emotion. And right. I do think fear is a better... And what's funny to say is I think fear is a less scary word than anxiety. Anxiety brings with it the connotation of something being medically wrong. The way that anxiety is perceived in our society today. And I'll say, as I've been doing a lot of deep dives into children's entertainment, there is a much greater focus on people who are anxious and have anxiety about their lives, their personal self-perception, and all kinds of things like that. I will say Inside Out threaded the needle on self-perception in a very good way, and self-identity. That's a better word for it. I don't like the idea of introducing the concept of anxiety to a children's film. That does not leave me with a good thought as a parent trying to raise a well-rounded child, a well-rounded in physical health or well-rounded in psychological health. I do have a problem there. So I'm hoping that they bring in maybe some developmental consultants to push them away from this idea of having anxiety as opposed to just generalized fear about something, because everyone has fear.
I guess
not everyone has anxiety.
That's true, but I guess it just depends on what experts you actually bring in, and if they're selective in how they do that, we can see this going off the rails pretty quickly. And that's what's got me a little bit concerned here. I guess they're going for like the teenage angst kind of thing, but but like you said, Jonas, it's kind of rooted in this, I don't know, this kind of postmodern idea of anxiety and so forth. Or at least that's what I'm getting from the trailer, what I'm getting from doing research on it and so forth. Also, too, I mean, the trailer highlights, I guess, Ozzy Osbourne's Crazy Train, which, hey, I love this song. It's one of my favorites of all time. But it's kind of weird to have that associated with a Pixar Disney film. So
yeah, especially one about mental health.
Yeah, precisely, right? So it's like, what are we doing? What are we trying to say?
Right. And I will say you used a word there that I think is a much better and safer word to use for teenage anxiety, and that is angst.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Right.
All right. Well, at this point, we want to throw it out to our viewers. As always, whenever I make a statement about what should or should not be in a children's film, or let's reference the South Park videos, I got a lot of thoughts on whether or not there should be cursing in entertainment. I didn't say there shouldn't be, by the way. It's not what my point was. That being said, it's always interesting to hear what our audience has to say on this. Please, I know we ask for comments a lot. I really would appreciate your comments on this one.
Please.
And if you like what we're throwing down here, please do like this video and share it out if you think that there are other people who could benefit from the conversation. And consider subscribing to That Park Place for all the news that should be fun.
Thanks for watching That Park Place News. For more information, consider checking out www.thatparkplace.com. And don't forget to subscribe, share, like, and send this out on your favorite social media accounts.